So when you see things that make you anxious in the world, you can rest assured that God has seen it already, that God's heart towards you is to bless you, not curse you. And on top of that, God will ultimately win and have justice. So I hear people say all the time, I just can't watch the news. There's just too much bad news, and I just feel like every time I turn around that Christianity is losing its foothold on the world. First of all, it's not the first time that's happened. Second of all, here's what I know. Holy God will not ultimately be defiled. God will win, and His justice will reign. I don't have to have all the answers. All I have to do is live out of the conviction of what I know to be true and know that God will win. And then the fourth thing is when you know that God is equally aware of the past as He is the future, and when you know God's heart towards you is to bless you, not curse you, and when you know that God's holiness will ultimately not be defiled and justice will reign, then you can believe that God is everywhere, and so you are never alone. This is what the psalmist says in chapter 139. Whither shall I go from your spirit? Or whither shall I go? I'm reading this from the King James because I think it's prettier. Or whither shall I flee from your presence? If I ascend to heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in Sheol, you are there. If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, even with your hand shall lead me, and your right hand shall hold me. What he's saying is, where can I go, Lord, that you are absent? I find it so strange that many of us believe these things are true. God sees all of history equally vividly. That God is wanting to bless His children, not curse them. That God's justice will reign even when we don't know how. And that God is present so we are never alone. We can never flee so far from the love and provision of God. That we have no problem believing that for others. I have no problem praying that over my children and believing the best for my children. I have no problem believing and speaking those things over my wife's life. But there are moments in my own life where I don't believe them for myself. I find it a strange occurrence in the life of a Christian that we know these things to be true about God. We know these intentions and these things that we can rest in when there's a time of danger. But when it comes to us, somehow we think we've been disqualified from these truths. That if people really knew who I am, if they really knew the things that I do in secret, if they really knew the thoughts that went through my mind in the dark of the night, if they really knew everything about me, if I were laid bare, they would understand why God can't work on my behalf. Let me assure you of this. Everybody feels that way. That's the beauty of the gospel, is that everybody feels like they're disqualified. And the good news is you were. You were disqualified. Except for Jesus, who says, when my Father sees you, He doesn't see your brokenness, your shortcomings, the ways that you have disappointed yourself and others. What God sees when He sees you is me, the only begotten Son.